Welcome to episode 127 of Sport Shorts. I'm your host, Bobby Hacker, the Sport Shorts guy. And today our guest is Lexi Lutz, the General Counsel of Samize. I would hope a proud sponsor of the Sports Lawyers Association. Happy to have you with us today, Lexi. How are you doing?
Yes, thank you, Bobby. It's so great to be here with you today. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's great. We'd like to start off as we normally do, just to get to know you a little bit. So tell us about your job as the GC at Samize, what you do, if there is such a thing as a day-to-day, because generally in-house positions, there's no such thing as a day-to-day. But talk about your job, and then if you could also give us a little insight into your path to ending up where you are today.
Absolutely. So you're completely right. There is no typical day, I would say, in the life of, I don't think any in-house job that I have been in, but particularly this role, which I would categorized as a pretty unique GC role. So Smize is a legal tech company, specifically end-to-end AI contract lifecycle management. And I joined about 3 months ago as general counsel. And what does that entail? That entails me advising the executive leadership team as well as the board, keep track of kind of the legal issues that come up and arise within the company. We are a startup / scale up. Recently got a Series B funding round of $50 million back in January. So there are a lot of, as you can imagine, kind of like high growth ambitions there that we are working through. And outside of that, since it is a legal tech company, I have the privilege of being incredibly immersed in the business. And people really at this company just love to hear kind of what I did and did not like about in-house practice. And my first question to them is usually, well, how much time do you have? Because there's a lot that I can yap about. But but I truly do value just that, being able to give that feedback from kind of like the ideal customer profile perspective, coming from large companies previously. And then outside of that, I also just interface a lot with customers, because a lot of the customers are lawyers on in-house legal teams. And, I'm able to kind of help them figure out the best use cases for their industry based on, because I'm arguably the number one power user of the tool. So I like to think that I am able to provide guidance in that sense, and to try to increase adoptability and usage for our customers as well. But prior to Samize, I was at Nordstrom, where I focused on privacy, AI, and cybersecurity. And at Nordstrom, we had a larger legal team than I do here at Samize. Here it's me and one junior attorney. At Nordstrom, we were much more we had specialties, as I kind of just mentioned, and really enjoyed working at Nordstrom. Although I will say that having a tool similar to this, I feel like would have been incredibly useful there, just because contracts are incredibly they can be sometimes hard to keep track of. And so that was one thing that kind of inspired me to make the move over to Samize. In pretty much every in-house role that I've had, not just Nordstrom, but any in-house role that I've been in, I would have killed probably for a tool like Samize. And so, and then prior to Nordstrom, I was at Extended Stay America. Again, did some contracts there. I was originally hired to do kind of employment there, but that evolved into privacy, contracts, litigation management, general liability, risk management. So I was much more of a generalist there, which here makes me feel at home, because I do have that experience of dealing with kind of multiple areas of the law and having to keep track of a lot of different areas. And then prior to Extended Stay, I was at Compass Group USA, which is a food service company. And there I was focused primarily on employment, because they were an incredibly large employer. I think they were the 5th largest employer in the world when I worked there. And then prior to that, I was at a law firm just for a year, but kind of knowing that I wanted to be in-house since law school, just because I'm really attracted to the business partnership and the ability to really strategize with the business, not only from a legal side, but also a business perspective.
Yeah, I can definitely relate, because, in my former life, My title was Business and Legal Affairs, and I think it was more enjoyable than just being someone drafting agreements. Sort of, I think having a more holistic view of a business operation makes you, I guess, a better lawyer because you understand the nuance. It's not just about the contract, it's about what the impact is. And I think in your business, especially not just because it's a startup, because it's in everybody's favorite two letters in the English language, A and I, um, you got to know what the business is because if you don't, it's going to be tough sledding to try to advise anyone. My first question for
Yes.
you is one of the issues that lawyers face and the use of AI that is unrecognized is the problems with loss of confidentiality, loss of work product. But you are not operating in an LLM. You're a system that sits on top of the word suite, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we are natively integrated into all of the tools that businesses already use. So if you use Microsoft, we would be integrated natively into Outlook, Word, Teams, PowerPoint, etc. And then same for Gmail, HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. Yeah, so yeah, not an LLM, isolated instance specific for the business teams or the in-house legal teams that the businesses are using.
Now, in with this kind of a product, one of the questions I've always wondered in these models are are there distinctions between its use in in-house environments and law firms, or are you focusing on in-house opportunities?
Yeah, so we only serve in-house legal departments. I think, there probably could be a use case for law firms, but for our purposes, a huge differentiator, I would say, for Surmise is that we have the ability to integrate throughout the entire business as a whole. So for example, if the sales team has a contract that they are needing reviewed today, probably needed it signed yesterday, but they wanted to get it reviewed ASAP, and they get an email. Surmise allows the opportunity for the sales team to essentially put in a request via Outlook or via Teams without having to leave that platform and it go directly to legal. Legal have the ability to, quickly review it or, have the AI functionality assist with review and then get it to them immediately. For law firms, because there's not kind of that direct customer kind of they're not like within the business for example, like they don't have the same domain. Usually it's a law firm representing a client, multiple different clients, businesses. So because of that, I think it would for our purposes make it a little bit more difficult, because really we love to pride ourselves on enabling not only legal but also the business. And so in-house is definitely where our product provides the most value. But yeah, there are plenty of really great tools for that law firms I know are putting into place, especially in the AI market right now with, I know it's kind of a buzzword, but with the entire legal market being at an inflection point right now with AI.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because, I look at my years as an in-house attorney and business affairs executive, and there you're not living in tenth of an hour billing increments. You're just getting stuff done. And
Exactly.
one of these advantages of your system, which I'd like you to do a 30,000-foot view for us, is that if I need to do a contract and it's for a topic I've done, distribution of something, let's say, I have the ability to create a contract based upon the other distribution of whatever's that I've done in the past using your tool, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we essentially would base it on whatever your historic like playbook says, or yeah, if you have a previous example, it would be able to pull that in and essentially do it for you. Yes.
Yeah, and I've used other tools in the past. I mean, way in the past, where you could do compare to two documents and see the differences between them. sort of what Surmise does in sort of tracking changes in documents. Is that correct? Is that functionality part of what the program is?
Yes, that's definitely part of the functionality. It's our Review Pro feature. Yep. So you have the ability to, you could either do kind of have it automated based on what your preferred kind of ideal positions are. And then you can have also additional fallback positions, which can immediately plug in. Or, or if you just want to have it track generally for you, you can do that as well, just depending on how automated you would want it.
And it just, with respect to the documents, it's sort of looking into your Word base, for example. So it just looks at all the Word files you have and can make those determinations, correct?
Yes, yes. So yeah, we have an entire kind of the ability to have a repository of all of your agreements, and so yeah, it would pull from that kind of your historic agreements as well as any other information that you put in. For example, we have found that a lot of lawyers keep much of the institutional knowledge kind of up here. And so one thing that we want to try to assist with is to democratize that institutional knowledge, because while it's great to have attorneys that have been with the company for so long and have all this knowledge, we are strong believers in the fact that that should not just be kind of stuck with one person, or to be honest, just being forced to like take that person away from whatever else they're trying to focus on to get that knowledge from them. We think it's most valuable if it is put into, a secure, isolated system within the company that then other people within legal or in the business can utilize.
So when I first started back at the end of the last century, as I like to say, I got a binder and it had gives. And it was just printed out. This, we give this, and then it broke it down in different categories. And I knew that if I was doing an agreement with a particular law firm or different agency, I knew that outside of our standard form, these were the gives I would utilize. I can do that now with inside of the system, correct? With your system.
Yes, yes, yeah. So that's one thing that our platform certainly has the ability to do, is kind of take that institutional knowledge, and our legal engineers can kind of ingrain it into the platform to ensure that all of the contracts that you all have, that it is, that knowledge is much more accessible.
And so you get it, somebody says, I'm interested in doing this. What's the training that's involved? What's the services that Surmise gives to its clientele to sort of get them not just onboarded, but to get them educated in using the system?
Yes, yeah. So we have like over 40, I think, sports teams as customers, which is really exciting because I know this is sports short. And I have found that that's their number one concern, right? They're usually lean legal teams with high volume, understaffed, underappreciated in many ways. And so, yeah. And so a lot of times they're like, wait, so what all do I have to do? How much extra time is this going to take? What do I need to do outside of my day job? And, the great news on that end is that it's very little involvement of a prospect or a customer's time or effort at the beginning, which most people probably think that I'm bluffing on that, but in reality, I've seen it play out. Like I said, I've only been here 3 months, so I'm still kind of learning how the full sales cycle looks like. But from the implementation standpoint, it actually is only about 1 or 2 hours at the front, just to figure out kind of like what is going to be needed for the implementation. And then the heavy lifting really is done by our legal engineers once they have all the information, depending on how many contracts have to be transitioned into the platform. It could be, an hour every week, every other week, just to make sure that things are on track and things are moving forward. But it would mostly just be the teams kind of answering questions, and then our legal engineers going and running with that and setting everything up to customize it exactly to how the team wants it. And so, so it's only a few hours time commitment at the beginning. And then after that point, customers have seen value within the first couple weeks. Obviously, not saying the entire implementation will be done within 2 weeks, but we have seen customers, see value in their highest pain point, which, maybe their strongest pain point is the repository, right? They don't know where all their contracts are. Within 2 weeks, we have seen customers where they are able to, wow, I can actually search for these contracts and know which contracts say this and be really organized. And so that's just an example of like a severe pain point that can be fixed just in potentially the first week or two. And then after that, full implementation can be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. And again, our legal engineers do all of the heavy lifting. If there are questions that they need answered, typically they would just reach out and try to be as, hands off as possible. But there are just some things they do need answers to questions about. And so, but that's usually as intrusive as they will get.
Yeah. The reality is, having been in-house, and as you can recall from your previous in-house experiences, you generally have form templates that have blanks for lots of things. Is this set up so that I could just, enter in how to fill in the blanks? I mean, how does that work? How does working with your form templates work through the Summize system?
Yeah, so there are a few different options. So many customers kind of just give us their templates, and then we're able to work through those. If they want to update them, they can let us know. And our legal engineers, most of them are legally trained as well, and they can make those updates accordingly. If a customer doesn't have any templates, if they're not as organized as your teams were, then we do have the option to kind of create them, depending on the kind of most requested forms that you would have for your team. And then of course, if there are kind of third party agreements that are used regularly, we can pull those in as well.
So when you're saying a third party agreement, that's, let's say, an agreement that I have deals with company X, and company X has its form. Would I just input or query up that company's form against, new terms that we want to utilize, and it would generate a new contract for me, or generate a red line for me?
Yeah. So it would be honestly just depending on what you would want. So for example, there are some companies that people or that companies negotiate against that just don't ever want to change their terms, right? So for those, obviously, we would just kind of keep those in as is. But then if there are companies that there's leverage for negotiation, we would have the ability to pull in red lines. If, for example, if your company knows that company likes to be on their paper, we would basically pull in what our ideal would be, or fallback number 1, fallback 2, fallback 3, and be able to quickly get that turned around to the third party.
So one of the big issues that I've been dealing with, not personally, but through fellow lawyers of mine, particularly in law firms, are trying to come to grips with AI and billing. And I know you said you're dealing primarily with in-house, but one of the big issues around, I think, any legal AI use is once you get beyond the basic issues of, protecting the confidentiality, protecting the work product doctrine, and things like that, it's time savings. So in the in-house environment, it makes mountains of success, because you're correct. Many, if not all, in-house roles are lean, and there's a lot of work, and this really is an unbelievable tool. In a law firm, it seems to be we're in an area that is changing the entire billing model, because if I took 2 hours to draft an agreement and review it and put it together, now I can do all of that work in 15 minutes, maybe, or maybe a half hour. It seems like there's questions about, how do I value my work anymore? Are you running across any of those concerns in your clients, or because they're in-house, it's not an issue?
Yes, no, I think we definitely have had customers and even prospects, reach out and say, is this, if I buy this tool, is this going to replace me? Or, what value then can I bring to the work? Right. And I think that's the same question that law firm lawyers are being faced with right now because yeah, the value really is in your time when you're a law firm lawyer. And because of the way that um, the payment structure has been set up, uh, law firm lawyers are incentivized to spend as much time as possible, right, to show their value. And so I think from an in-house perspective, right, and I think this actually also applies to the law firm standpoint as well. The value proposition that lawyers are providing is going to drastically shift from a knowledge base to more of a judgment, institutional knowledge, discernment of what exactly a specific company or a specific CFO or a specific salesperson, right, is willing to accept. And lawyers now more than ever before and going forward will be able to be so deeply immersed into the business and the business decisions than we have ever had the opportunity before. And I think, a lot of, especially like law firm attorneys that are in their first couple years of practice. Same with some in-house lawyers in their first couple years. Maybe at the beginning weren't getting a lot of that kind of like judgment, discernment practice because they were doing more of the grunt work of the reading, researching, writing briefs. And now that we are able to outsource a lot of that and delegate it to AI, at least for, the first pass. Of course, we would want any output to be reviewed by a human before ever putting it, especially in front of a court or in front of a client. But I would say that it gives lawyers the opportunity to really get in the shoes of the business people and understand why the legal positions should be taken the way that they are, the way that the business prefers, or if there's an opportunity to improve and evolve those kind of playbooks or standards that the company has from a legal perspective. I think it's a really exciting time for lawyers in that sense.
Yeah, I think one of the fears people have is you raise it in your initial comment is, am I going to be replaced? And I think that in the legal space, the answer is a pretty resounding no, because so much of the practice of law is, I guess the best word is nuance. And that's where you need the human to review whatever it is, the AI is telling you, oh, this agreement, and we're going to put in this indemnity provision. But maybe that's not exactly right for the particular situation. So you still need the human to review it. It's just you're providing an opportunity for a human to review more things quicker. Is that a fair
Exactly.
statement?
Absolutely. And, the legal market is not the only market that's being affected by AI. As we all know, as you said at the beginning, it's everyone's favorite two letters lately. And so it's marketing, it's sales, it's procurement. And so because we are now able to be that much more productive, that much more efficient, produce that much more output, lawyers are not going to be immune to, experiencing the side effects of that, right? And the downstream effects of that. And so it's just going to be, more agreements, especially like on the sports side, right? There's just going to be more sponsorship agreements, more player agreements, more intellectual property, licensing agreements that are going to come across your desks as, collectively. And so I think, I think that's the right way to look at it, is that we're going to be able to get a lot more done. But as, we all chose to be lawyers because we like to live in the gray, right? That's where we get that's where we get all excited of like, oh, this is the gray area. I need to figure it out. It's a puzzle I need to solve. And so we're just going to be able to spend more time doing that with more agreements and kind of leave a lot of the grunt work, the kind of lower level repetitive tasks to to automated means.
Now, you had mentioned that in your previous life, you worked in the privacy space. And I think that's a concern for a lot of lawyers, rightfully. But given the fact that your product is essentially in a closed system, it seems we don't have to really address those privacy concerns, or am I missing something?
Yes. So the way that, our tool is set up, like as far as privacy and cybersecurity, we have the ISO 27001 and SOC Type 2, which I know with the other companies I've worked with, those were kind of the two standard for cybersecurity. Yeah, and then for privacy, I think a lot of the B2B stuff isn't as much of a concern. And then for companies that are working more B2C, I think any privacy concerns there would be addressed in the fact that it's a closed system. There isn't a bunch of information that's being shared back and forth with other companies. And so, as far as those concerns, I feel that's one of the reasons why I chose this company to come to, from being a very self-proclaimed privacy nerd. That's one of the reasons why I chose this company to come to, because we take your safety and trust and privacy and security incredibly seriously.
Well, it's an incredibly serious subject, especially for lawyers, because you never want to, get to a position where somebody says, "Oh no, you don't have that protection. You gave it up because you sent it out into the ether, and now anybody can have it." And I think that's the biggest fear that lawyers have, and that's the barrier to adoptability right now in the legal profession, is protecting your client. I mean, obviously protecting yourself against malpractice, but we're always trying to protect our client. And
Mhm.
this is sort of our blue blankie. This is our protection to keep it in-house and protected and not accessible. But my one last question is, when I'm working in the system and I create my document, whether it's an original document or a red line of a document based upon searching through what I've done in the past and what I have in my system, what's available, since it's all integrated into the Word suite, I can go into the Surmise. I guess it's a drop down or something that you'd have to utilize
Yes.
Surmise,
Hmm.
and then be able to just distribute it, whether it's in-house or to my clients, without taking multiple steps.
Yes, yep, exactly. So it's built in, it's natively integrated within Word. Most lawyers prefer to work out of Word. And as soon as you have the agreement open, do what you need to do with it, review whatever the proposed red lines are from the Smythe platform, accept or reject them. And then so there is a drop down, as you're saying, integrated within Word, and you can choose essentially who within your organization it can then go to alert to, okay, here's the next step. So never have to open up a separate platform or another tab. It can all be done straight from Word.
So I said one more question, but now I got
Oh, good.
one more, I
Keep it.
think.
Yeah.
So if
Keep them
I'm
coming.
if I'm the marketing guy that's done a deal for sponsorship for the team A, and I get this agreement and I go, that's not quite right. As the recipient, can I put in a comment or a note or something that goes back to the drafting party so they can see that comment?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. We do have kind of an internal note system. Sorry, is this for the business person or for the other party?
This is all in-house, all in our
All in
unit.
house.
So
Yes.
I'm sending it to my business
Exactly.
person in my company and saying, I just want you to look at this. Is this right? Do we have these terms correct? They can just go comment on the document. No, it needs to be blah, 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 blah. And then I can integrate their comment. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's an internal kind of back and forth. There's like almost like a chat exchange for
okay.
comments that can be shown within the drop down within Word that the business team and legal can use to go back and forth, or business to business partners, and then be able to integrate that within the Word drop down without having to open up the platform separately.
Well, I think, the practice of law since when I began a long time ago has changed dramatically. And I think for the better. I know, and I've often said on this show, when speaking at law schools, I have to stop myself from saying, you can look up anything in a book, realizing that I don't know anybody uses books anymore. But we all have our assets and our research and our resources to help us in our practice, whether it's in-house or in a firm or whatnot. But as technology changes, the way the law interfaces with technology changes how we practice. And I think creating a system that's specific, that's discrete with respect to legal practice is a benefit to the profession and saves a lot of time from going, I know I use that agreement somewhere, which is my life. And now it's much easier to find out. Like, I know there was a provision that said da da da. I can go in and say, I need a provision that says da da da, and go in my work and find that provision and say, here it is.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to feel like the organized one in the room. I will say that. It's like I'm with you, Bobby. I was not used to that in my previous lives, and not the fault of any companies I was
No.
ever with. It was just kind of the way that the system has been set up, and yeah, I agree. I think all of the legal tools that are now in the market and leveraging AI are hugely beneficial for lawyers and the legal profession as a whole.
Well, I assume that if people want to know more, they can just go to surmise.com and connect and find out more information from you guys.
Yes, that's exactly where to find us, and I like to try to share some tidbits of how I use it internally. So feel free to also connect with me on LinkedIn if y'all are interested in learning more about my specific use cases or how I any takeaways that I have from our customers as well.
Well, Lexi, it's been a real pleasure chatting. I mean, this is just such an interesting and exciting area and changes and helps in so many ways. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And for those of you that are tuning in, if you're not a member of the Sports Lawyers Association, what up with that? Go to sportslaw.org and become a member. It entitles you to a lot of stuff that we have behind our paywall and gives you access to the webinars and other programming we do throughout the year. So besides our annual conference that's been going on for 51 years, with a 52nd coming up in San Diego next year, we also have our mid-year symposium, which will be in the early part of November this year in Boston. Smaller, but still a great opportunity to meet and build those relationships that make the practice of law that much easier and certainly better. So once again, thank you, Lexi, for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. And good luck with the tech startup world.
Thank you, Bobby. It was great joining you. Enjoyed our chat.